It was a clear summer night, and I, at 25 years old, was on vacation in a small town called Eldridge, located on the California coast. The town was known for its legends about a mysterious lake called Lake Evadne. They said that at midnight, the spirit of a young woman named Lila would appear on the waters, known for singing songs that hypnotized those who approached. I had always been skeptical about urban legends, but curiosity led me to explore the lake with my friend Lucas, who shared my passion for mysteries. Armed with flashlights and a recorder to capture any strange sounds, we decided to visit the lake at midnight. When we arrived, the atmosphere was magical. The full moon reflected on the calm waters, and the air was infused with the sweet scent of night flowers. Despite the beauty of the scene, a chill ran down my spine as I recalled the stories I had heard. "Let's stay close to the shore," Lucas said, trying to hide his nervousness. I agreed, but the adventure was just beginning. After a few minutes of silence, we began to hear a soft singing that seemed to float over the lake's surface. It was a sweet and enchanting melody that made us hesitate. "Did you hear that?" I asked while Lucas nodded, his eyes wide. The singing intensified, and I couldn't resist the temptation to approach the water. As I took a step forward, the surface of the lake began to ripple, and a figure emerged, with long flowing hair and a dress that seemed made of water. It was Lila, her gaze fixed on us as if she were beckoning us. The music grew louder, and I felt an irresistible force pulling me toward her. "Don't get closer," Lucas shouted, but it was too late. The song seemed to envelop me and I was paralyzed. Before I could react, Lila extended her hand, and a wave of energy coursed through my body. I felt a deep sense of peace, but at the same time, something inside me screamed to turn back. With tremendous effort, I managed to pull away, and Lucas grabbed my arm, dragging me back to the safety of the shore. The singing stopped abruptly, and Lila vanished into the dark waters of the lake. The silence was deafening. "You were about to get lost," Lucas said, breathless. I knew he was right. It wasn't just a legend. Something supernatural truly inhabited that lake. Shaking, I looked at the water, which now seemed calm and harmless. "We need to leave," I murmured. We returned to the town, still in shock. The next morning, we decided to research Lila's story. We discovered that she was a young woman who had disappeared decades ago, and her legend had become a warning for curious souls who approached the lake. That night would never be the same. Lake Evadne held secrets that were better left untouched. We never returned to the lake, but the experience remained etched in our memories. Sometimes, at night, I hear a whisper that reminds me of the hypnotizing melody that almost led me to an unknown fate. And so, the legend of Lila continues, echoing in the waters of Lake Evadne, waiting for the next curious soul to draw near. In a small town in southern Missouri, Jake is a dedicated pharmacy technician working the night shift at the local hospital. He balances his demanding job, which includes stocking surgery rooms and delivering medications, while also supporting his wife, Clara, who is babysitting her little cousins at her aunt's house nearby. After a long week of night shifts, Jake finds himself increasingly sleep-deprived, struggling with insomnia and the eerie atmosphere of the empty hospital at night. On his sixth night of work, after a brief visit to Clara, he experiences a series of unsettling events. The hospital, once a familiar place, becomes a labyrinth of shadows and whispers. As he delivers medications on the 5th floor, he encounters an empty wing undergoing renovations. The silence is palpable, and the absence of patients unnerves him. While checking the vacant patient rooms, he suddenly hears noises coming from room 5512. Peeking inside, he is confronted by the horrifying sight of an old man violently shaking in bed, blood streaming down his face, and emitting ghastly sounds reminiscent of the undead. Just as panic grips him, he turns to fetch help, but when he returns, the room is pristine and devoid of any sign of the man. Doubt creeps in. Was it a hallucination due to his exhaustion? Terrified, Jake rushes to the elevator, desperate to escape the chilling atmosphere. When the doors slide open, he is met by an old security guard who gives him a knowing smile and pats him on the shoulder. It's the same old man from the room. Confused and frightened, Jake watches the elevator ascend to the 5th floor, leaving him alone once again. When Jake finally returns home, the weight of the night's events hangs heavily on him. As he settles into bed, he glances out the window and sees the old man staring back at him from the 5th floor window of the hospital, a haunting reminder of the night's horrors. The line between reality and hallucination blurs, leaving Jake questioning his sanity. In the peaceful town of Maplewood, where generously sized homes adorn the tree-lined streets, a small house stands out. With its single-story structure featuring 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, this residence offers a cozy home, even if it is smaller than its neighboring properties. Its strategic location on a quiet street with a gentle curve ensures that no neighbor has a direct view into Sarah's house, providing a rare sense of privacy in such a desirable neighborhood. However, this serenity is abruptly interrupted when Sarah, an independent and creative young woman, finds herself home alone during a weekend when her boyfriend, Ethan, is in Las Vegas for a bachelor party. Seeking some fun and companionship, she invites a few friends over for a night of wine and horror movies. The laughter and screams of fright quickly transform into unease when an unexpected doorbell rings late at night, leading the friends into a nervous silence. After investigating without success, Sarah tries to dismiss what seems to be a prank. However, the tranquility of the night is shattered once again by the doorbell and persistent knocks, causing her to spiral into panic. Calls to Ethan, though comforting, fail to dissipate the growing fear that looms over her. In a moment of desperation, she calls the police to report the presence of a mysterious man outside, but the officer's response leaves much to be desired. After a night of tension, Sarah wakes up to the morning light, relieved to have survived the nightmarish ordeal. She attempts to regain a sense of normalcy as she prepares for an upcoming Halloween party. But when she returns home, the feeling of safety slips away once more. An open window and an ajar basement door reveal that something is very wrong. The echo of an unknown voice confronts her from the darkness, and the reality of her vulnerability reaches a new peak. With the support of a neighbor, Sarah calls the police again, but the encounter with the officers does not bring the security she had hoped for. The increasing tension between what is real and what may just be a figment of her imagination haunts her. As time passes, the house that was supposed to be a safe haven transforms into a place of fear and insecurity. The traumatic experience leaves deep scars on Sarah, who finds herself struggling with anxiety and the fear of being alone. Daily life becomes a challenge, and the shadows of the night bring echoes of a past she cannot forget. Echoes of the Night is an engaging and psychological narrative that explores the limits of safety in our homes and the demons that often dwell within our minds. As Sarah tries to reclaim her sense of normalcy, she discovers that sometimes, the true horrors are not found in horror films but in the experiences that shape our lives and haunt us in our darkest hours. Late into the evening, as the friends laugh and scream at the jump scares on screen, the doorbell rings, cutting through the laughter like a knife. The atmosphere shifts instantly. They exchange confused glances, unsure if it's a prank or something more sinister. Sarah tiptoes to the door, peering through the small glass panel, but sees no one on the porch, only the silhouettes of parked cars in the driveway. After dismissing the incident as a childish joke, the night continues. However, Sarah is abruptly awakened around 1 a.m. by the doorbell ringing again, this time accompanied by a series of urgent knocks. Heart racing, she realizes that no one should be at her door at this hour. Panic sets in as she calls Ethan, who is at a lively bar in Vegas. He tells her to stay in her room, advising against opening the door. As she hangs up, a disturbing noise creeps through the silence. A faint clicking sound followed by a voice whispering from outside, "Hey, anyone home? I need some help." The voice sends chills down her spine. Gripped by fear, Sarah calls the police, whispering her report into the phone, hoping for swift assistance. Within minutes, she hears another round of knocking, this time accompanied by a firm voice announcing, "It's the police." Relieved yet still on edge, Sarah opens the door to two officers. One officer strides in confidently, while the other remains silent. The first officer's demeanor feels off. He talks over her as she tries to explain the situation, exuding an air of skepticism. After a brief and inadequate search of the premises, they inform her there's nothing they can do without evidence. Feeling dismissed and vulnerable, Sarah tries to settle down for the night. Thankfully, the next morning brings sunlight, washing away some of the night's fear. She busies herself with preparations for a Halloween party that evening, hoping to forget the unsettling events. After a fun night of costumes and laughter, Sarah returns home around 1 a.m., only to find her house feeling eerily cold. As she sets her things down, she notices a window wide open, the source of the chill. Unsettled, she brushes her teeth, but when she emerges from the bathroom, her heart drops. The basement door is ajar. A consistent clicking sound emanates from the darkness below. As she peers into the pitch-black void of the basement, the clicking stops, only to be replaced by the voice from before. "You're finally home." Overwhelmed by terror, Sarah slams the basement door shut and rushes outside to her neighbor's house, seeking safety as she calls the police once again. Once again, it's the same two officers who respond. This time, accompanied by her neighbor, Sarah feels slightly more secure. The taller officer's attitude has softened, and after a thorough search of the house, they assure her that everything seems fine, but advise her to be cautious. Despite their reassurances, Sarah feels a lingering sense of unease. With her heart still pounding, she decides to spend the night at her sister's house, locking every window before leaving. The experience lingers in her mind, leaving her with a newfound anxiety about her own home. Months pass, but Sarah struggles to shake the feeling of vulnerability. The house, once a sanctuary, now feels like a place of fear. She refuses to be alone for long stretches, haunted by nightmares of knocking on windows. The echoes of that night linger, reminding her to always double-check her doors and windows. Though she still lives in the house, it has forever changed her relationship with her home. The once charming neighborhood now carries an undercurrent of fear, reminding her that sometimes the scariest things aren't found in movies, but in the shadows of our own lives.